your host, Christina George, only on DTMWickedRadio.com.
All right. Welcome, everybody, to Aliens, UFOs, and Beyond. I am your host, Christina George, and my co-host, Renee Chavez. We're hoping we'll be here any time. But tonight we have such an amazing guest. We're going to be talking to Pamela Lafredo, and she's actually a former New York County, Maine MUFON State Section Director and a field investigator for them, actually, as well. And she's been doing it since, I believe 1992. So, obviously, she's been in this field for a very long time. Not only has she been, a research specialist in ufology and extraterrestrial visitation for over 30 years, but she's had multiple close encounter sightings in the Hudson Valley region of New York State. And what was interesting is a lot of people know throughout the years that I've been doing the radio shows that I have been finding a connection between a lot of similarities between the contactees and people with psychic abilities. And people have scoffed at me for a long time about trying to make those links. But when you're investigating people outside just one, field, you find a lot of similarities. And so Pamela actually started finding out that, she was starting to experience a variety of, different psychic phenomena, innate skills, telepathy, stuff like that was all coming into the forefront. So we're going to talk about that tonight. And while we're doing that, we're going to try to get Renee on the line. But I want to start out also talking about Pamela because something really, really interesting happened today, and I want to get her opinion on it. Actually, with Pamela's psychic abilities, she works as a psychic detective, trying to find missing children or murdered children. Now, many people know that I have done a few murder cases or unsolved murder cases in the past with great accuracy, and today was really no different, but it was much closer to home. So we're going to talk about all these topics. It's going to be a great time. Anybody's interested in calling in, our call-in number is 607-244-6483. You can find us on the DTMWickedRadio.com, Aliens, UFOs, and Beyond page. All you have to do is just go to the DTMWickedRadio.com page and click Listen and Chat. It'll take you directly into our chat room. Sign in and come join us. So I think it's going to be a great show tonight. So let's go ahead and start out with my guest panel. Are you there?
I am.
How are you tonight?
It's been an interesting day. Just saying.
I heard. Yeah. Well, obviously, go ahead.
Your end as well. You know what? It's been a very rainy day here in Maine. It's been raining all day. And I very rarely do laundry, but when I do, I'm thinking, being a human, I'm doing laundry at the laundromat, and all it did was rain all day, and I'm thinking, you know what? My life is so interesting. I could sit here and just do laundry during a rainy day at the laundromat, and I can be on the air with at 9 o'clock tonight and talk about some serious stuff.
Yeah. Well, it's very interesting that, whenever it seems like we're going to really talk about some big topics, always is interesting that, we either have technical difficulties or, just all the weirdest things, happen. And kind of tonight's no different. We're finding out that, different areas all over the East Coast were, encountering flooding and, these thunder and lightning attacks and stuff. So, we're going to talk as long as we possibly can. Yeah, it's very convenient.
Whenever I go on the air, there's usually a little disturbance.
Yeah, you and me both.
Happens, but that actually gives me a little bit of goodwill. That makes me feel like whatever I'm doing really matters. It's important. Somebody's noticing. Somebody has a problem with it. That's okay with me. When I speak the truth, if anybody has a problem with that, that's okay with me because it's not about me and what I think. It's about everybody else, and that's what I'm about. So,
I love that, and how you feel about that, because it is really important, because when you're dealing with topics like these, when you're dealing with topics of, either the paranormal or UFO and aliens or psychic abilities, although people are starting to kind of turn around in what they believe, there are still plenty out there that, it's like an uphill battle. Like, they're never going to believe anything that you say. And it is a lot of pressure to be under, especially sharing these types of stories. You hit conflict from people, people within your own families, because the fact that they don't have these same encounters or these same experiences, that, the stories must not be true. And, it's sad that it's that way, but I love the fact that, I think that it's because you've been doing this for so long, in the public, that you finally have kind of hardened. I mean, I've got about 12 years in the public eye doing all this, although I've been, doing it, having disabilities my whole life. And, it's sometimes hard, to be judged in the public or things like that. So I really look up to the fact that, like you said, it really is. It's not about us. It's really about, the message and about what we're, sharing. So again, thanks for coming on the show tonight. I do want to start with what I was telling everybody earlier in the show. So today I had to come back from the doctors, and as I pulled in, I was seeing that there were police cars running, up and down our, street and into the complexes near us, near where I live. And so I pulled in, and I went to go and get my mail, and as I went to go get my mail, I saw one of my neighbors on his bicycle riding around kind of frantic, and I asked him what was going on. I said, with all the police, and he said, oh, you don't know? And I said, no, I just got home. And he said, oh, the little girl from over here, and he pointed to the area where she lived, is lost. And I'm like, what do you mean she's lost? And he says, yeah, she, got out of her house, and she, nobody knows where she's at. And being a mother myself, I'll tell you, it just, my heart, sunk into my stomach. It was a sickening feel.
That's why I got into missing children. As a psychic, I do a lot of work as a psychic, but when I really look at missing children, that becomes a different area of psychic ability, and some people never go there. They don't have to. They don't want to. But you know what? When you can't help it, when you're called to that area of life, when you're a psychic, and I'm a medical intuitive, so I do a lot of different type of psychic work, but when there's a little innocent child missing, and usually, 90% of the time, it's family related. Sometimes it's not.
Right.
But it's the biggest part to decide, is it an ex-father, stepfather, mother, whatever, or family member intervening, or is it some kind of criminal act?
Right.
And a lot of times it points to the family, unfortunately, but sometimes it doesn't. And I've been involved in this a long time. I'm still looking for Ayla Reynolds. Anybody that can hear me right now on the air, I'm getting ready to work with her grandfather after 3 years of her missing in December. I think it's going on 3 or 4 years in December. I've been looking for this baby since she was about maybe 18 months old. She's probably about 3 years old now. And this is a Maine case. This is a local case. And I've been on other ones, but this is different. From the very beginning, I really felt something about this child involved DHS, drugs, some really shady people, a beautiful child. You should see her. She's such a beautiful little girl.
Mm-hmm.
She fell through the cracks to some degree through DHS, and her mother was put into rehab, and DHS would not turn her over to her mother's grandmother or aunt. Instead, they decided to give her over to her biological father, who pretty much had nothing to do with her up to that point. The family fought. It didn't matter. They still said that the best person should be the biological father next to the mother. So they didn't care what quality of life this child had before that. They pretty much turned her over to a drug addict, somebody who really lives a very entitled life in a lot of ways. He doesn't work. He doesn't take care of his child that he never really knew. And that child went missing in his custody while that child's mother was in rehab. So even though she messed up, at least she was in rehab. And DHS turned that child to what they thought was the best possible person, which was the biological father. And she disappeared and we believe died under his custody. And so that's a case up here in Maine. It's a cold case. You know, I like those cold cases. I was in it from the beginning, but it hasn't been resolved. They haven't found her. Everybody believes she's dead because of her blood loss, but nobody has a body and they can't prove anything. And I'm just like praying that this child is still alive, because I believe in my heart and soul that there was like some kind of higher child pedophile ring, or some kind of, even if it was some kind of organ donor ring. I don't believe this child was just murdered like by accident. I believe they wanted her for some reason, and she might even be alive still. I'm holding on. You know.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's very interesting.
I tried to tell the police years ago where I thought she was, where everything connected to her death was, and to this day they won't listen. So.
Yeah. Actually, it does. Happen a lot, unfortunately.
When I heard today you had a positive outcome involving the police and a missing child.
I did. So I just got a message, actually, in chat.
We're on the air tonight. Tonight was the night we picked, and that happened to you today. I don't think that's a coincidence whatsoever.
Oh, I don't either.
No.
And I want to bring on Rene Chavez. We should have him online. Rene, are you there?
Yes, I am.
All right, great. I'm glad to have you here finally. But, yeah, so I'll go ahead and just tell the story. So, as I said, I went and I checked, with the neighbor, and the neighbor told me that, yes, that this little girl was missing. And, he told me she was about 2 years old. And I just thought, oh, my gosh. And he says, yeah, it's a young mother who lives over, up the road from us. And, she's got 5 children under the age of, 5. And so I almost I didn't know this person, it's like I'm seeing the police, driving all up and down like crazy men up and down our, area. So I'm thinking, okay, they're on top of it. I see them pulling into their parking lot to go talk to the mom. But something still was just telling me I needed to go and at least help and look. And I said, I told the neighbor, well, I'm going to go look in the garages. I'm going to go look under the cars. I'll see, what I can do. And he said, yeah, we should check the laundry rooms too. And so I went, and each building has their own laundry room, and so I'm checking the different laundry rooms, and I'm checking the doorknobs, and they all have security gates on it except for one. So I'm looking in the windows, and I don't see anybody in anything. And I walk down further down towards her house. And as I walk by, I knock and I yell, hello, is anybody in there? I look up on the through the window. I still see nothing, but I'm only 5'4", so I couldn't really see too much. I get down, and as I walk past, all of a sudden I got electricity energy that went from my head to my toes, out my fingertips, and the hair on my arms was just standing straight up, and I literally stopped in my tracks. And I turned around and I went back, and as I went back, I saw and heard the little doorknob jiggle, and I thought, oh my gosh, is somebody in there? And I run over there, and I'm wiggling the doorknob, and I'm knocking on the door, and I'm saying, "Are you in there? Is there anybody in there?" And I stop, and like nothing happens again. And I'm looking in the window, and so all of a sudden, like 5 police cars pull, into their parking lot all at the same time. And so they just kind of like all start, getting out of their cars and walking. And I actually yelled over to one of them and, asked him to come help me. And he said, "What?" And I said, "Look, we're looking. Can you check?" And he's like, "Oh, I think they've already checked this area. They're checking the perimeter." And I'm like, "Okay, well, I heard this."
Almost not as correct as psychics are.
Right.
I'm just saying, they don't want to listen to psychics, but they like to be the hero, and it's not about heroics. It's about finding that child no matter what it takes. That's it.
Yeah, exactly. And so he actually stood up on, a grate, and he looked in there, and he couldn't see anyone. He could see that the dryer door was open, but he couldn't see in there. And now, mind you, these laundry rooms are just big enough for a washer and dryer to fit side by side. That's it. And then they're closed. I mean, it's like a little closet. So, he sees it open. He doesn't see any child in there, but it just was eating at me. And he said something about, "Do you have a key to this?" And I said, "No, but each of these complexes, whoever lives there has one." And I said, "The neighbor in the front over there, she's out there. Maybe you can get her key. Would you please check in here for me?" He goes, "Well, I don't see anything, but sure, I'll go and get it." So he goes and gets the key, and I'm standing there like just so antsy, like I just literally was so anxious. And the kids start looking at the grate underneath, and they're like, "No, we can see in there, and there's nothing in there. It's just the dryer." And I just wouldn't leave. And so the police officer comes back, and he opens the door, and he's like, "Hello, police." And he looks around the corner, and then he says something and I thought he was saying, messaging that he had gone in and that he didn't find anything is what I thought he was going to say. But instead, he radioed that he had found her. She was behind not only the door, but also the door to the dryer. And she was too and wasn't even speaking. So she just got scared when we were jiggling the doorknob and knocking on it, so she went and scrunched behind, the door of the dryer.
She's a baby.
Yes, absolutely. And so all of a sudden, like, he comes out and, like, he goes, "You found her." He goes, "This is amazing." And he, like, high-fives me. And, all of a sudden the young mom comes running around the corner, some other officers went to go get her and tell her that they had found the baby. And as they're coming back, I hear from another officer that's there, as he hands the baby over, he says, like, "This can't happen again." And I'm thinking, again? And he said, yesterday, and then they start telling me that yesterday, this same 2-year-old child ran out of the house and got lost. And fortunately, all the neighbors in the area and families started, like, combing the area along with the police, and they found her in a creek bed up the road from the parents' home. And she was climbing out, and the dad happened to, like, pass by as the child was coming out. Now, I'm telling you, this baby is small.
I'm going to tell you something. I don't care how small she is. She knows that something about her environment keeps leading her somewhere else to hide. And you know what else? I want to tell you something that's really strange, and you got to hear this because this matters to me. Really, this is crazy. This is crazy stuff, but it's not crazy to me. It just makes sense to me. That's the way shit is with my life.
Exactly.
You know that today, I was supposed to do a lot of things, but I did what I had to do. And one of them was go to the local laundromat, which I normally never do because I have a washing machine that died on me not long ago. So I have to go to the washing machine in the town, and it's only on a Wednesday when I'm able to go. I'm only going on Wednesday. That's my day off today. And I went to the laundromat today and did my laundry, and it took me like 3 hours because I had my blankets, my sheets, I had my clothes, I had everything. And all this went down while you were dealing with a laundry room, and I almost never deal with a laundry room. And it's just weird that I'm on the air with you, and that's what I do. I deal with missing children. That's my passion. Whatever I do, it's all about to me in a way. I don't like the word victim. I don't really like the word victim, but there are people that are victims in this world that are young enough that they can't fight. You know, adults choose to be victims. Children do not. So I help adults. That's my life. I'm you know what I do. I help adults every day of my life, but my passion is to help children because they cannot help themselves, and if they don't have the right people there to help them, then it might take a stranger like me or you. But funny that you were in the laundry room with me today, Christina.
Yes.
It
is so amazing. You know, I mean, how the coincidences, how the signs. I mean, it does. As much as it surprises other people, I am like you. Like, this is how my life works. You know, like this kind of stuff is like nothing crazy.
Laundry room, but I was there today. I was in the laundry room today. So
exactly.
It's been a very long time since I've been in a laundry room. Just saying.
Well, that's amazing.
That's freaking out. When I got your message a little while ago, that really long message that you posted, not to me, but you posted on Facebook,
right.
I saw that, and I'm like, wow. I heard that yesterday you were not feeling good, that today you were at the doctor's, and then this happened to you. Your life reminds me of me. It's like we could be, like, falling apart and half dead, but somebody else is, like, calling.
Yeah. You know, people beat me up all the time, you know. I mean, and actually a lot of my listeners and friends and followers, you know, started to actually even get upset with me because they were constantly seeing me doing stuff. And
busy. We are too busy, dear. Do you understand? We're like one human being. You know what? And you are like me. You're empathic, and you need to check in with yourself. If we don't keep the well full, we can't help anybody. And nobody wants to fill our well because we're too busy filling everybody else's. So we have to do that. And we don't do it well. We don't know how to do that well. We know how to fill everybody else's well. So every now and again, we get a wake-up call, but it still does not involve us. It still involves somebody else. But it's who and what really matters right now.
I'm right there. I'm right there with you. I am such a believer in that. And again, this is the reason that, you know, although I may have a lot of hard times, you know, doing what I do, you know, the gratitude and the love that I get from people for the things that I do for them, or a lot of people will say, like, you know, I inspire them, you know, because I am dealing with, you know, an illness with no cure. You know, but I'm still always helping people. I'm still moving forward. You know, I don't really shut down. I'm always on the go. I'm always doing, you know, some other project. So I think we are very much alike. Okay, so I want to talk about.
You know, it's funny though.
Go ahead, Renee.
Yeah, I was just saying how funny it is too. That's true.
No,
you know,
can't.
It's funny how
some people cannot. We don't have the luxury of shutting down like everybody else. Keep doing what we do.
Thank you.
You know, and that's why I enjoy being around her. That's why I enjoy being around Christina. I know when she goes through a lot of things, and I do check on her constantly, and making sure that she's okay, because I know she has, you know, it feels like she's holding the world on her shoulders. And, you know, I try to be there as much as I could.
She doesn't do it alone, and neither do you, because you do the same thing.
Yeah.
I can feel you. You do the same thing.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. You know, I mean, that's the thing. I think that, again, I look at signs because have been a lot of people that have been brought into my life that have taught me immensely or helped me on many different levels. And then there have been a lot that have caused me a lot of grief, but they've also taught me a lot of lessons that without them I wouldn't have learned. So
yeah, well, that's Mr. Stephen P.R.S. Yeah, my greatest lesson in the world was my ex-boyfriend, Stephen P.R.S. You know about that, Christina.
Well,
and we're not going to go into details, but
Stephen, you know, is a friend of mine. But yeah, I mean, absolutely. I think
great lesson.
I mean, I think it's interesting how, you know, connections, you know, happen. The people that we meet that are very much like us, that, you know, have the same mindset, same experiences, we're very drawn to each other. And I think that, this is no different. I was contacted by, Pam through Facebook, and immediately, was interested in having her come on the show because, again, I do talk a lot about, the connections between the fields, and especially the boom that I am seeing of people reporting psychic phenomena and psychic abilities after, finding out that, they've been a contactee or have vivid memories of being a contactee, but just kind of hid both aspects of it over the years. So let's start with your first contact and what was it like, and kind of give us a rundown. I know you've got like so many years of experiencing things, but kind of your view of how things went for you.
Okay, well, it started out at age 4, and it's always been involved in pissing myself. I hate to say it, but you know what? When you're, like, really afraid at the age of 4 and you maybe don't even, like, have the support you need when things are happening to you, you do what you do. And what does a 4-year-old do? So what I did was I slept really close to the wall, like in the corner of my bed, between the bed and the wall, and I felt safer that way. I don't know why, but I did. Don't ask, when you're an experiencer, you don't even you don't question why you do what you do. You just feel what you feel. So when I was really tiny little, I didn't tell anybody this stuff back then. I didn't even know what was happening. I was too little.
Exactly.
But I had some really strange things go on from the time I was very little, and I've got messages in my head from angels that told me no matter whatever goes on in your life, no harm will ever come to you, like no real harm, physical or, well, they can say whatever they want. I think they meant physical because I've had a lot of emotional, mental, and spiritual pain, but physical, it's one of those things when you have a higher purpose, you just push past your physical stuff, That's the least of it. And I know that. I know that from everything I am as a healer. Everything that goes on with you comes down from the spiritual, mental, emotional before it ever hits you, like on a physical level. So when it hits you physically, then you have to pay attention because it's real. It's so real in your everyday reality. You have to, pay attention to it. So that's where it starts at age 4 when I was very aware of the fact that there was something, what I perceived under my bed, but I was afraid to get up at night and go to the bathroom, or if I woke up at night, I was afraid to, if you're not an experiencer, all you know is there's something there and isn't anything that loves you. It's something that has an agenda with you, even if you don't know what it is. And you don't have to be 4. You could be 24 or 54. I'm 51 now, and I'm still not really sure what the agenda is, but I have a greiter understanding of the big picture.
Wow,
it took me a very long time.
Well, here's a question for you, because I really ask it of all of the contactees that I've ever had on my show, as well as interviewed over the years. And, people have been contacted or abducted, however, they perceive it. Do you feel that the fear that they have of being abducted is all about the not really understanding what's going on, and us feeling as humans, we have free will, so that, if somebody doesn't ask our permission to take us and check us out or do any of these things, that they shouldn't? I mean, do you think it's fear-based, and that's why? That's a very old story. You know what? I've gone through that 1,000,001 times. There's never really a complete understanding, because I feel like it's a great mystery. It's beyond anything that we're really going to ever fully understand on a mental, conscious level. And yet there is a absolute part of the known that knows that you are taking part in something important.
And every single experiencer, or a lot of them anyway, the ones that aren't like totally freaked out, I was at one point. But, you know, out of every single person in the UFO field, I feel like the person that's helped me the most out of anybody, truly, is Dr. John Mack. And, you know, they say he was killed by a car in England, run over by a car by accident. That was no accident at all. And he was, out of every UFO person that I've ever listened to, if anybody knows who he is, he used to be the director of psychiatry at Harvard University.
Wow.
And they gave him such a hard time because he hooked up with Bud Hopkins at one point, and that was a very interesting connection, how they came to. And John Mack looked at Bud Hopkins like he was out of his mind, and Bud tried to make him see that you can be as psychiatric and mental as you want to be, and you can work for Harvard, but this is real, and I want you to listen to me, and I want you to listen, and just open your mind. Do you know that many years after Bud Hopkins and John Mack connected, I saw them have a debate in Boston. I was sitting there in the audience physically while John Mack and Bud Hopkins had a debate. And I was amazed because Bud Hopkins, like, woke John Mack up to the whole thing. And he actually went beyond what Bud Hopkins thought. Bud Hopkins, as much as I adore that man in a million ways, and there's so many reasons why I do, he helped me in so many ways. But after him came John Mack. And John Mack said, you know what, Bud? It's not a victim thing. It may be, just maybe, all these people everywhere that are talking about things that they could never, ever share because they're from far and wide. They could never communicate to each other. They are talking about the same things in the same ways. So it's beyond fear and beyond victimhood, and it's beyond selective, like, you know, his thing is, why do they pick on certain people? Like, why do they choose people and torment them and pick on them and drive them crazy and whatever? You know, and John Mack said, like, why don't we crack the cosmic egg and look at dimensional energy and understand science a little bit more? Science and mind. You know, he was of mind, but he was of science and mind. You know, and that's where it's at, because for me, everything I know, it's not about anything logical and mental, nothing you're ever going to understand, nothing you're ever going to quantify as something that is anything on your day-to-day, get up, do your thing, go to work, come home, do what you got to do. You know, every now and again there are some people on this planet that have their lives, like, drawn over to another area, like a secret life or a double life or whatever. Ask for that. Sometimes it's just what it is. And it's like it takes a lifetime sometimes to understand it. It really does, you know, because we can try to, and I don't want to be mental anymore about it. I'm trying to really understand it in a way that is more spiritual and yet scientific, because I'm very scientific. I'm a Gemini. Anybody who knows a Gemini, you know what? We're so mental to our own fault that we are going to have to understand that before we can logically wrap around anything. I am the biggest skeptic ever, and yet my life has shown me everything unskeptical and unlogical and unreal. So, you know, you talk about riding the fence, and I don't know what you want to ask me from there, but go ahead. I'm on the fence of what's real and what is really real, truly real.
Right. And what's strange is that, you know, what they tell you isn't real. You know, once you start experiencing it for long enough, you know, it does start to make you question everything. Everything that you believe, everything you've been taught, everything that you think to be true. At least I know it has been for me. I mean, how great it would be if, 20, 30 years ago, the same information that's available now was available back then. I don't think we'd have,
It was, honey. It was always there within us. We were always waiting for something outside to validate it, or even me. I could know what I know, but maybe it took a Harvard psychiatrist to tell me it's really real.
Right.
So
right,
whatever,
right. Because society would tell us that it wasn't. I'm sorry,
I love Bud Hopkins, but he was more like me. He couldn't really explain it the way John Mack did. I'm just saying, for me, and that's me. That's only me. Right. When that man spoke in Boston to the very person that was the very basis of my whole UFO history, Bud Hopkins, when John spoke, and yet he was taught by Bud Hopkins. So, that I have to look at that. It's like Bud taught John about the whole field. And you know what? I'm getting ready any day now, in 3 weeks from now. I'm going to be here in Portland. Do you know I'm going to get to listen to Linda Cortile? Linda Cortile was from the book Witnessed by Bud Hopkins. You know how long ago I read that book, and before that, I read everything Bud wrote before that. But when he wrote Witnessed, I'm from New York. Listen to my accent. I was born and raised in New York. And when Bud said that Linda Cortile was literally beamed out of her Brooklyn apartment or New York City apartment into a UFO right over the George Washington Bridge, I think it was. I mean, this whole book is all about witnesses. There was a cop. There was a police officer that saw everything that happened, all right? I have never talked to this woman in my life. I only know about her. Bud Hopkins died. I know his daughter. I've talked to his daughter since he passed away, but I never knew his daughter until he passed away.
Right.
But, Linda Cortile is going to be right here in Maine with me, like so many people last year, like Travis Walton and Stephen Pierce, and this year Steve Bassett and Dustin Waite, and all these people are going to be here this year that I have never heard speak, and I can't wait, because even though this year I'm not a speaker, I was last year, I was the year before, the first two experiencers that ever existed, I was a speaker. This year, you know what, I'm old news. I want to hear from a few other people, and we are about ready to crack this cosmic egg, and we're going to do it within a year. I'm telling you now, I know that as a psychic. I've been waiting for disclosure. I've been doing CE5 work since 1992, since I met Stephen Greer in New Hampshire at a UFO MUFON conference. I've been doing this stuff a long time, and I feel like in the next year or two, this is happening. And it's not going to come from the government, Christina. It's going to come from all the rest of us. And the government is going to fall because they're a bunch of liars. And I said that I'm sorry.
No,
they're not all liars, but there's way too many liars in the people that serve us, that we need to do what's best for everybody else, and we can't wait for them to tell us the truth, because they won't. They won't do it.
Yeah, I completely agree, and we've actually, talked about that, with a few people on this show about the whole topic of disclosure, and everybody does seem to agree that, disclosure is not going to be on CNN News, showing a alien craft, beaming down and people coming out and, meeting the ambassador. Disclosure is happening that's right in front of our eyes, and we need to wake up to it.
This morning, I sent out a press release this morning that I created, a press release, because we have a conference coming up September 2nd where I worked for 10 years as a psychic, and that is the beginning of what is happening 3 days later at the 3rd Annual Experiencer Speak Conference in Portland. I'm holding a press conference 3 days before, and I put it out there today. to the entire main television. I put it out to television, newspapers, everybody in the media today. I did. I put it out there today.
Oh,
because,
that's amazing.
Yeah, well, I don't know if you saw it, Christina, but that weekend is not only going to be about Experiencer Speak Free, but after the weekend, Monday night, we are going up to Otis Field, Maine, with a very select group of people, experiencers, contactees, researchers in the UFO field, and we are doing a CE5 with all the right protocols, because I've been doing that since the early 90s, and I haven't done it in a while, but I have all the right stuff. And I've been studying Richard Morehouse's CIA protocols for remote viewing for probably the last 5 years. I do a lot of remote viewing because I can.
Wow, that's awesome.
You know,
we live closer to Maine now, you know.
You know what? All that is consciously projecting yourself to a remote location to tune in to see what is going on. And you know what? Intent is everything.
Right.
When you want to know what's going on, not for yourself, it's not my ego. I care about everybody else. It is, for me, a drive that I will never, ever understand because I don't even care about myself except to keep my vehicle going. I am obsessed with my house, because that's where I do all my work here in my home with my people. I'm obsessed with my physical body. Not that I work out, but it's more of a mental thing. You know, if mentally, if I'm not clear, if I'm not really clear, then I'm not really going to help anybody. So I feel like half of my job is to make sure that I know what I'm doing, because if I don't, then I shouldn't be doing it.
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
That's a full-time job right there, honey. I'm just saying it is. You better be really clear about what you're doing, because if you're not, then it's something else. It's not really what it is supposed to be. It's something else, and it's not really real. Right. And I'm all about what is real. And you know what? You can be in the hospital. You could be in the doctor's office this morning with kidneys, and you can go through pain and misery, and then you can find yourself a hero at the end of the day. And even on the radio, even at the end of the day, you know? I don't have to tell you what is expected of us, but, you know, some of us aren't really here for ourselves. The only reason why we have a body to live in is because we have to maintain it, because it's good for everybody else that we do. Right.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know what I'm saying?
Oh, I absolutely do. And I mean, I appreciate actually what you're saying, because it makes a lot of sense. And
our body has a higher agenda. It's just a carrier for what we came here to do. We just need a body to do what we came here to do.
Right.
So it's not really about us. And that's okay. It's okay and it's not okay some days when you're trying to be a human and you just want to get a life.
Yeah,
you know,
that's true. Yeah, that part is true.
I know what you went through a couple of months ago with your grandson. I do. Yeah. I know what your daughter went through. I carried, whether you know it or not, I was with you all night long when she was having a hard time giving birth. I remember that. I was right there with you. Know it or not, I was there with you in spirit.
I'll tell you, and it was such a rough time because, you know, of course, she had, you know, problems throughout her pregnancy, and, you know, they were telling her she wasn't going to have the baby and all these different things, and had her all stressed out. And eventually, you know, everything's going good. She makes it to her due date. We go in, and, you know, it just, like, really went downhill really, really quickly. And it went from everything was fine to, you know, we had to have this emergency C-section in order to save both her and the baby. And what was interesting is when the baby was born, my grandson was born, she had to have an emergency C-section. So they pull him out, and, you know, he's completely, you know, bluish and not.
You know what? That's a star baby. When they're blue, they're of the blue-violet flame. They are. My son, Daniel, who's going to be 16 in November, when he was born, his doctor said, "We have a little blueberry." He called him a blueberry. He was born so fast and hard. rapid descent, they called it. He was so bruised. And I'm like, yeah, well, that's physical. Yeah, well, he's a baby of Michael. He's of the blue flame. When they said he's a blueberry, it's like, yeah, that's Michael's baby.
There you go. Yeah.
Michael
was very,
for like 25 years.
Yeah,
so,
they pulled him out, and he wasn't breathing, so they took him, to the room across from us, the resuscitation room where they were working on it. And I remember, going in there, and I remember, just thinking, oh, my gosh, please,
well, I
saw the picture you posted today of him, and he's only like 3 months old. He looks like he's like 40 years old or more. He's such an old soul. I'm telling you, he really is. It's absolutely
he's
amazing.
A powerhouse. That's all I can say. He's a powerful little being.
Yes,
I know that.
Yes. Oh, and I definitely feel it. Too. Well, now I know that you. I mean, obviously, since you've known that Pamela was going to come on, that we've actually had a lot of conversations about having her on. What are some of the questions that you have for her? With her being a contactee as well as all this other stuff.
Well, some of the things I've been interested in is about the writings, like what I do, of the different languages that you would hear or speak, or did you just wake up and write these languages, or how did you come up with that?
Well, that's actually Leah that does the writing of the
that's the one. Okay.
The alien symbols. That's our next week's show. But
I don't do any of that. You know what? They speak to me directly, and I hear them. And sometimes that's good, and sometimes, you know what? You really don't want to hear the truth.
I was going to ask you that. So you hear it. You hear it audibly, and so I mean, and is it in a different language, or is it in English, or I mean? How do you know what they're saying?
They talk to me right in my head. Oh, they always have. Not only the aliens, but even my spirit guardians. They talk to you in the way that they can, and they know how you will receive them. They know the best way you will receive them. They do know. Interesting.
Well, now over the years with you having both, being so involved in MUFON, I mean, because like 30 years, I mean, that's a long haul with MUFON, and I'm sure you've had, thousands of cases. What did you think when you started having all of the psychic abilities? Did you think that they were connected, or when did you kind of start putting those together?
Well, I really think that I was born with that, and that's what they tuned into. I think they pick on people that have a certain, red flag out there on an energy level that they can pick up on. And they know our intent. They know that we're different. They just do. Whatever that is. It really doesn't matter to me. I'm not that attached to how come, but I'm attached to, what am I supposed to do because of how come? If I've been chosen, or if I chose myself at some point on a soul level, I want to do that. I want to make sure that I do what I'm going to do. So that's what it is for me. I don't really fully, totally understand it. I don't think anybody ever really does fully. But I do know that it's important. And most of us know that. We've been asked that. Would you end this contact scenario if you could? And most people would say no because they think it's important. Whatever.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's important right there, Pamela. That's really important because
one thing I did, Christina, that's huge is it took me a long time, and it took me a lot of research, and it took me before I ever went public. I couldn't even do that. I had to make sure I wasn't crazy first.
Right.
Go through a time period where you have to, obsessively understand what is happening to you. And beyond the paranormal, that's, par for the course. When you're dealing with ET, you're dealing with psychism, you're dealing with telepathy, you're dealing with mental conversations in your mind senses. You're dealing with things that nobody talks to you about, nobody tells you about anywhere, and you wonder if you're crazy, all right, and you're not, and there are people that have said, well, some demon made me do it, Satan made me kill that person or shoot that person. I've heard that before, too. Mm-hmm. But, you know, that depends on where you are on a conscious level. You can pull in archangels or you can pull in, like, demon spirits. It depends where you vibrate. And if you vibrate to a place of consciousness where you actually care about somebody else, anybody else, and they feel that from you, they zero in on you when you're an empath, and they want that. And certain ET groups, as you may or may not know, Greys, Zeta Reticulans, they cloned, like, empathy stuff out of their DNA a long time ago so they wouldn't war and kill each other. They were trying to find a better way. But, I mean, this is more than a 2-hour radio show. We can go on and on and on about different ETs and their agenda, their intent. You know, the Greys have like a hive mentality. You know, they're like worker bees or ants. You know, there's a queen, and you like do what you have to do on behalf of the whole. And I feel like that's what the queen represents. Like it isn't about the queen and serving the queen. It's about serving what the queen serves, which is everybody else. Right. Or it should be that way. Mm-hmm. Even though the Queen of England doesn't serve anybody but herself. And I'm not sure about, like, real queens in a bee's nest, but my concept of the hive mentality is that there are different, like, worker and different roles that anybody might play on behalf of the whole. And whatever your role is, it's not about sucking it up. It's about owning it and understanding it and doing it with joy. If you're here to serve somebody else, serve and do it joyfully. It's not really a crucifixion. It feels like that on an earthly level. It does. On an everyday earthly level, it feels like a crucifixion. But, yeah, there is a fine line of polarity to that crucifixion when you have to look at yourself and say, I'm not doing this. I'm not doing this because I'm, like, spending time or wasting energy. My intent is very specific, and that's why I do it.
Right.
And nobody really needs to understand it. You don't really need validation from anybody. You know, you don't. I don't really care what anybody thinks of me. I just don't. I really don't. And I think I have a lot of boxes in life because of that, because I don't care what anybody thinks of me. I'm only one person. I care about way too much else to care about what anybody thinks of me. So I think that's like my whole radio show. It's all about everybody else for me. It is.
Well, yeah, me too. I mean, I started it out because people were very interested. Go ahead, Renee.
Yeah, I was going to comment on that too because, the Zetas and even the reptilians and other species often work as a whole, like a collective, and they serve the higher spirit, or you can call them God or whatever you want to call them. And they try to keep that order, and they do it without the bickering like we do down here. Like, oh, I don't want to do that. They do it with joy. They do it with love, and they want to do what they can to try to help mankind and the planet as well. But there are
Renee, I'm a bee, but I am not a status quo bee. I will fight that queen bee if I think she's wrong. I'm like, hey, queen, what about this over here? That doesn't work. That's not working.
That's a New Yorker in you. You want.
I can honor the queen in any situation. I will honor the bigger thing, but when I see something that it doesn't pass my filters, I have an issue.
So what is some of the information that you have, gotten over the years with your contacts?
You talking to me? Yeah. Okay. Well, you know what? What I believe, no matter what, is that overall, it is something that is experiential, and nobody is going to quantify it, validate it, or express it in any way in the objective as something that you will witness as a subjective witness. And it's good to have witnesses. I've done both. I've had 0 witnesses and witnesses. I've had UFO experiences alone, and I have had crazy UFO experiences with witnesses, more than one, that are sitting there going, I have never seen this before, but I am seeing it right now. And it is what it is, because it's not a plane, and it's making no noise, and it's flying over my head, and that's no plane, and what is that? And it won't let us take a picture. It will not let us take a picture. It won't. Even though we're sitting there, like, wanting to, because we know I'm a MUFON investigator. I know how to investigate anything at this point. And, you know, when they won't let you, whatever. You know, what do you do about that? How do you, all you have is your, like, now you have a physical witness, which is good, but now you have no camera witness. So they like to play with us, you know. That's so frustrating to me because I don't have to prove anything. I just forget about my own proof. Forget about what I already know about my own proof. I have seen and talked with people that have said things to me that validated my own experience. I wasn't even helping them, even though I thought I was helping them. They're telling me things that I'm shaking my head going, okay, yeah, that's another thing that they could never know about, that they just validated that is real for me. And I'm listening to them. They don't even know that they're validating what I already experienced. So,
right. Now, do you think that your journey, as far as, you know, MUFON, you know, working with missing children, I mean, I know for me, it was, although I've helped so many people along the way, it was a very personal journey for me. To try to really find out my own answers of what has been going on around me all these years. Was it the same for you?
You know what? It's beyond me. It's not just about I need to know. It's like I'm obsessed with needing to know, and it's beyond. Even though I want to know myself, I feel like it's so important that other people know before I leave here. And I'm 50. I could leave here anytime. I'm 51. People younger than me have died in their 40s, you know, people, friends of mine.
Right.
I don't know how long I'm going to be here, but you know what? As long as I got breath in me, I'm going to try to understand, not just for myself. I don't need to understand for myself. Because when I'm gone, it doesn't matter. Everybody else needs to still understand what it is. I want to leave something that gives everybody an idea, maybe, a concept, where they can go and, for themselves, because it is personal. It's a very personal experience, no matter what. Everybody has a similar experience. We have the same contact scenario, but for us, the way we experience it is different. And E.T. knows that. It's like some people freak out. Other people will pick your brain and try to ask you questions and question you. That's me. You know, I'm not the type to freak out. I had 2 children, totally natural childbirth, through breathing. I don't freak out. I don't freak out by nature. It's like, bring it on. Whatever I'm going to do by nature, bring it on. It's nature. Have a baby the way you're supposed to. I don't believe in drugs. I don't believe in doctors. I don't even like doctors. I won't go there right now. Well, that's another conversation. I'm a medical intuitive, and, you know, doctors and me.
Don't work well together.
No, let's just say I've been righter than them, and they don't like that. They don't like that I'm right, and they're not. You know, and it's not about being right. It's about being, like, accurate, because somebody's life is riding on the line there. It's not about your ego. It's about what is needed.
Right.
So,
and I get that a lot, too, especially.
For doctors, I'm an intuitive, and I'm a medical intuitive, 30 years of medicine as a medical assistant. And I've watched doctors, and I see what they do, and I know they're not always right. I already know that. So.
Right.
Right.
I have the same kind of issues with my doctors for many years, you know, and it's not about being right, but it's about, you know, standing up and standing up for yourself.
Accuracy is important. And when you're right and you're not sure, if you're not sure as a doctor, You know, maybe you have colleagues that taught you, mentors, somebody you trust. Tell a patient even if you have to. I'm not really sure what's wrong with you, but I will find out and I will figure out what it is I need to do to figure it out. I'll ask my colleagues. I'll look into it. I'm not sure. Admit it. Don't put a human being through a test and still not have a diagnosis.
Absolutely.
You know what? I've been through so much of that in my own life with patients and in my own family, in my own everything around me in every way. You know, and, you know, don't play God, because none of us are God, but we all have a part of God. So say, you know what, I'm waiting for God to speak to me here because I don't want to get this wrong because your life is riding on this. So I'll look at the test results, but I'm ultimately, as a doctor, I'm going to listen to my intuition. I am going to listen to what life has shown me, patients and things, and if I feel like a blood test or whatever is off or wrong, I'm going to run something else. I'm going to make sure. I'm going to make sure before I tell you what's wrong with you. I'm going to make sure. And that has not been my experience, honey. You know what? They're tired. They're overwhelmed. They have too many people in line, and they're looking to throw something at you and throw you a pill to fix it, and they don't really fix anything.
No,
and I know that from the inside. I'm not saying all of them are like that, but I know that medicine has gone downward because I am a medicine woman. And my book that I am writing is called Medicine for a New Humanity. And it's about personal medicine. Everybody is different. Everybody has body, mind, and spirit. They have a mission. They have a role. They're part of the whole, and they're part of the microcosm, too. You know, they have a simple mission, and then they have a bigger mission that involves everybody else. And I think that's the most important thing is if you don't maintain yourself in a good way, you're not helping anybody else.
Very true.
It's not selfish. It's not selfish, and it's self-absorbed. It's a healthy balance of what do I need to do to fill the well because nobody else will. If I want to be the well giver, I got to have the well filled or I can't serve anybody. So I'm about filling the well so I can serve everybody else because my life is important, but it's very not important if it isn't serving everybody else. I just feel that way. I have always felt that way. I don't know why, and I can't even tell you why. And maybe that is my biggest question in my life is how much of my life is about me and what I enjoy and if I get to have a good man or a vacation or good friends or what it's all about pain and making sure everybody else is good. But I can't do that unless I'm good. I got to be good in whatever way I need to be good, even if my own personal, ego needs don't get served. There is a higher thing happening in my life that I've struggled with. Like, how much do I really need and want, and how much of my being is really about everybody else? That's really been the hardest part, is to understand that.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right.
I do.
Well, being an investigator with MUFON for so long, I mean, most of the investigators are usually, I think it has kind of changed, probably over the last 10 years or so. But, say 30 years ago when you started, there weren't a lot of MUFON investigators that were also experiencers. The majority of them were, UFO enthusiasts or, researchers wanting to be able to help, prove this stuff or get evidence towards this. How were you really accepted in the field being both a researcher and an experiencer?
Well, that brings me back to Bud Hopkins, because Bud Hopkins says anybody that's really that obsessed with this field is pretty much an experiencer to some degree.
Right.
Even if it's in their DNA that they're ET bloodline and they're a human now and whatever. Bud said that. Bud said anybody that's obsessed with this field at all. Like yourself, dear. You got a radio show, Aliens, UFOs, and Beyond, Anybody that has, an interest in this field, there is not an accident there. Because so many people don't. How many people don't care, will look at us and say we're nuts. They could care. They just don't care. And they don't really understand it. They don't want to. But for some of us, it's something we can't shake. No matter how much we try to live everyday life, we know that there is multidimensionality, and it's like visiting our back door, our front door, our life, and it's there, and maybe we just do things other people can't do. It doesn't make us special. It's not an ego trip, but it gives us an opportunity to make a difference. It does. We have been chosen, or we chose ourselves, whichever it is. Doesn't matter. The choice is there on some level. And we fight it. We do, because it's not, it's not pretty, and it's not acceptable. And we don't, one thing about my life that I feel like is the same about yours. People have a hard time disliking us. There's nothing really to dislike. But they have a hard time accepting us because we're a pain in the ass.
I'm not saying nothing.
You know what? We represent everything they fear, they don't understand. And we're annoying to them. Ask them to go out of their comfort zone, and they can't do it. They don't want to do it, so they fight us. And we're like the enemy, and we're not. We're not. So much of what we do is not about being the enemy. We are desperately trying to help, and it's so painful. The biggest thing is being called a lot of names that I'm not. I've been called a lot of names that I'm really not at all, and it's painful because, people understood my heart and soul. They would never, ever even begin to assume such a thing about me. Not like that. That's not okay.
And people are very judgmental because I see it on Facebook all the time. You'll see people who've been friends and teammates or, researched together, whatever, for years on Facebook or social media. And then all of a sudden, they disagree on something. And before you know it, all I've seen across my Facebook, notifications is just people trashing each other. And I've had it happen to me as well. I mean, I've been everything is, been told everything that I was, everything from a...
Drama. That's drama. It's the dark side.
It is. Boy, it's not right.
It's not even about disclosure. There are so many people, even the Vatican, that have come out with the fact that this is real.
Yes.
And the fact that they still want to, make anybody feel ridiculous about this topic is almost ridiculous at this point. It's like we don't really need you to admit it because the experiencers, that's what experiencers speak is about. We don't need you to tell us that it's real. We know it's real. We're helping the people that are confused about whether it's real or not. We're helping to validate people that don't have the knowledge that we already have. We're trying to acknowledge other people that have come after us or have been living it right alongside us that have not come as far as we have. I want to talk one thing right now. I don't know how long we have on the air, but before we go off the air, I want to...
another hour. We're good.
All right, I want to talk about something that's so important to me is, being a victim of this, you are that for a very long time until you understand it. And you can never really understand it, but there's an element of trying at least to understand it. And the more understanding you have, the less fear that you have. Fear is nothing more than the unknown, something that you do not understand. So you fear it, judge it, say it's horseshit, whatever you want to say. But you know what? When you're looking at it and and you're pinching yourself, you're like pinching your physical self, saying that, this isn't fake. I'm not imagining it. And, why? Why me? Why is this happening? You know what? Ultimately, we can do that forever and ever and ever and ever and ever. But I feel like there is a point where you get over the victimhood and you have to understand the bigger picture. And with that comes everything. wherever you look, whoever you come upon, the person that you decide to look upon as somebody valid to you in the UFO field. You know how many people are in the UFO field for like years and years and years? Like I said, John Mack learned from Bud Hopkins. As much as I love Bob, I think that John Mack went above that, okay? In some way, he went above the fear. I needed above the fear and the victimhood to understand it. So John was a huge influence for me when he was, even after Bud. Even though Bud was it for me until I met John, I mean it. You know, John opened up a different door. He said there's something more. It's not just about being a victim. Maybe this is something we just don't understand on a physical human level. Maybe it's spiritual. You know, maybe they're not here to, do us in, and that's the way we experience it. We experience it as the unknown, so we judge it as bad. Maybe it's something we just don't understand, you know, so maybe it's not bad. Maybe it just is, you know, and that's what happened to me. I'm like, if it's bad, it's bad, but I have to overcome it because it's going to do me in if I don't. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, absolutely.
I turned a corner. I turned a corner, and I said to E.T., if I am going to do this with you and I can't stop it, and no matter where I go or where I hide, you're going to find me because you know my frequency. You're going to find my energy no matter where I am.
Right.
It's not going to be on your terms anymore. It's going to be on mine. And so, number one, you're not going to scare me anymore. If you come for me, you're not showing up at my bedside when I'm sleeping. You're going to let me know at least 3 days beforehand you're coming. You're coming for a visit. You're going to let me know so I can prepare. And boy, did they. They did. The minute I changed that contact scenario and I told them, you're going to let me know when you're going to come, they did. And you know what? They did what they said they were going to do, too. They said we're going to be there in a couple of days. They were. And you know what? It was just as bad, but it wasn't as bad because I knew they were coming anyway. And once they showed me over a few contacts that they were going to give me a heads up before they started to show up, then we got on a different honor system. They had to show me that, though, consistently. Not once, but maybe 3 or 4 times before I said, okay, they're working with me now. They're working. They don't want to give me up, but they know I have free will now that I understand my own power, and they know they're not going to deal with me except it's on my level. It's on my terms. That's it. You know what? I knew I wasn't going to give it up. I knew I couldn't or I didn't want to. But it couldn't be on a fear-based level of disempowerment. I had to have a little bit more power over that. So whatever you want to call it, that's the word that I used at the time. And I came to find that that was more of a free will empowerment thing. And, yeah, I'll co-create this with you. I'll co-create it, but it's not going to be on your terms. It's going to be on both of our terms. So you want me, you're going to do this way. You're going to give me a heads up. You're going to let me know when you're coming, and you're not going to do anything I really don't want you to do. I'll work with you, but you're going to work with me. And that changed everything. That changed everything. You have no idea. Ever since that happened, I was no longer a victim of their fear and the stuff they used to do to me. The way they did it, it took on a totally different scenario, totally different.
Well, and I agree with that because, again, I think that, you know, a lot of abductees who, you know, come back with these terrifying, you know, stories, you know, at the beginning they used to terrify me, but then I started, you know, as more time went on and more time went on, and I was, you know, re-interviewing people that had been, you know, abducted or contacted for multiple years, you know, going on. And once they started to kind of have this understanding like you did as well, I mean, it did change for them, and the experience changed. And I'd always thought, well, if, you know, if these abductions are so, you know, have such bad intent in them, why in the world would they return you? You know, because all these people were saying that they were being returned, and I thought, well, Jesus, if these are somebody that, you know, wants to hurt you, why would they bring you back? That's like a kidnapper kidnapping you just for the thrill of it and then bringing it back. Say, no, just joking. We'll come back and try it again next week. You know, I mean, when you really look at it,
there's a lot of scenarios around that. Honey, look at Travis for 5 days. They never did that to anybody. nobody has ever been detained 5 days that I know of except Travis. So,
right.
You know, he has the, like, greatest UFO story in history. How much does he actually consciously remember? And even if he's had all the, you know, hypnosis and whatever.
The regression and all that.
No matter what, yeah. I know, because he's already said there's certain things he's just not going to talk about. That's for sure.
And there's a lot of people who that's exactly how they feel. I mean, there is some stuff that is, you know, hidden for a reason, you know, for whatever, whether their psyche can't take it or whatever it may be. But, you know, they don't want to, you know, remember that those certain, you know, pieces of it. But again, I think that knowledge is always power. And so, again, just like you say, I'm a big, you know, believer, and I'm always preaching about, you know, how we fear things that we don't understand. Once we understand, we educate ourselves, we are no longer afraid of them, and so they no longer control us. So it's an ever...
And you know what? We never fully understand it at all. But, you know, we have a better understanding than just to say it's evil or bad or they're trying to control us or manipulate us or do us in.
Right.
You know,
right.
If they wanted to, they could have a long time ago done a lot of things.
That's my thing. Yeah.
And whatever they do, I feel like they have a reason. They're smarter than we are. As dumb as we are, we're pretty smart. And if they're smarter than us, then they have a definite reason why they're doing what they're doing. But they all have a different agenda. Remember, there are different races, and they have different agendas with us. This goes back to, you know, a long, long history, you know, just like way, way back to people that have written on this subject for a very long time, like way back, like J. Allen Hynek, you know, like way back in the UFO field, people that, you know, were nuts and bolts science. So they were trying to look at it scientifically and make it make sense somewhere in our reality. And maybe it never will in this reality, but the more we understand about multidimensionality, when people talk about past lives, I don't even believe with that. I don't agree with past lives. I believe that all life is happening now, that everything happens now, and it's simultaneous, and that if we're living past lives, we're living them now, here, future, past, present, time, future, whatever.
Right.
Yeah, that's what I have decided from my nuts and bolts science that I've studied. I believe that it's all happening in different multidimensional aspects of time and experience. So, you know, if you can wrap around that on a third-dimensional reality and still get up every day and go to work and live your everyday normal Earth life and still wrap around the idea that you're dealing with a bleed-through, it's a bleed-through. There's a whole lot of bleed-through going on that's not even happening, really, in your experience. But you're feeling it, and you're feeling it. It may not have anything to do with the day that you've experienced, but, you know, you're feeling something, and you don't even know why. You know, and some people will notice that, and other people won't, and they'll, whatever. You know, people just think, oh, why am I having emotional? Why am I emotional today? Why am I feeling emotional? Nothing happened, you know. Well, yeah, when you think about everybody else, anybody out there randomly that's having a very, like, hard day, you might feel that. You never know, especially if you know them, but you don't know they're having a hard time.
Right. Well, even if you're just walking around, I mean, many people are very empathic and don't even realize it. And, you know, like me, I cannot go to, like crowded malls or crowded places because if I'm in, you know, close confinement with a lot of people, the energy that they emit is like freaking kryptonite. I can literally, like, I will feel their happiness, the sadness, I'll see the fights that they had earlier that day, what they're, you know, going on, you know, in their lives. I mean, it's just like an avalanche of emotions. And even when I speak at conferences, and I speak all the time, you know, I have to, like, go and speak, and then I usually have to, like, leave for a few hours to kind of go ground again and everything so I can go down and go, like, talk to people because energy is very, very strong. And people, even you're right. Everybody is born with, these abilities, but a lot of people have not been in touch with them just because they've been taught for so long that none of this stuff exists. But for those of us that we just are not able to shut it down, it's just is always there. It's something that we have to learn to adapt to. And again, it's our reality. And, I think all of us have wondered at one point or another if we're crazy, or we don't want somebody to think that we're crazy.
Or do you just ever try to find some kind of understanding about it? Because you know what? I can look at, like, things that go on, like, which is finding that child. I can look at all the things that go on, and there is never really any real understanding for it. No matter how we try to work on that, we never really fully can understand why God does, why, like what happens in. There are levels of understanding. There's like experiential, third-dimensional levels of understanding in everyday life, what goes on at work, home, whatever. And that is so menial to me. It's like pay attention to what's going on around you every day, the important people and things in your everyday life. That's true. Mm-hmm. And then you have to go to work and deal with the community, and then you have to deal with the global thing. And then for some of us beyond global, we deal with universal and spiritual and things that we can't even prove. We can't even prove this stuff, but we spend energy trying to understand it. We don't even try to make other people try to understand it. We're trying to understand it first, and then we try like hell to get everybody else to. But it's a really difficult place to be when everything that you do from an empath point of view, you have to understand the different levels of empathy. Empathy is a gift. It's not a curse. It's not torture. It's a gift. If you don't feel, then nobody else will either. So somebody has to. So for those of us who feel, for those who don't, it isn't a torture. It's not a torment. It's not a punishment. It's not a cross. We feel it that way. We really do every day. We feel that. But it comes in time and maturity that you realize that everybody else that you don't even know, people you don't even know, people you know on the computer. Like I don't know you, Christina, personally, but I know you, but I don't really know you. Right. But I know what I need to know about you. And I know people in person that I've met a million times, and I know them less than I know you. Because some people open up and allow themselves to be known, and other people will never let you in. They won't let you in. And whatever, I can't judge that. I can't. They can do whatever they choose to do. And all I know is I am here for those who want me, who need me, who care about everybody else.
Right. And there is a lot of us. There is a lot of us out there.
I can't worry about the people that I even love. There's people I love, and I wish that they would hear and wake up. Not that I got to tell them anything. I wish something would wake them up, even if it ain't me. Something. Right. I wish that could happen for them.
Right.
But I can't spend my energy on them. I have to spend it on the people that are either incapable of spending it, like missing children. They need people like us that care. And there's people that just for whatever reason, they can't get out of their own way. They don't know how to help themselves. They don't understand. And they want to. I care about the people that want to. I don't really care that much about the people that don't want to. I'll let God take care of them. I can't help people that don't care. I can only help people that care, that look for help, that seek it, that find me or you or any of us. Those are the people I care about because they care enough to look or seek or ask or find. I have to focus there. I can't worry about the people that I've tried to wake up that call me a devil, a demon, I'm a terrorist sympathizer, I'm a Al-Qaeda sympathizer. I've been called so many names. It's so funny. It's ridiculous. Whatever. I'm nothing like that. I am the ultimate empath. You know, I care too much to my own detriment, but my biggest lesson is learning the balance between how much I care about myself and how much I care about everybody else. That's been my big lesson in life.
Yeah, and I think that's still what I'm going through as well, because, you know, when I had my near-death experience and I realized, you know, that I was ill, everything changed for me. I mean, I was given a lot of information in my near-death experience of what I was supposed to do, what I was supposed to be, you know, that I was not supposed to be hiding my abilities, you know, and that was kind of really scary for me, because I was still in a time where people just really did not want to hear about psychic abilities, you know, or, you know, seeing spirits or things like that. But it resonated with me so much that I knew that that's what I was supposed to be doing. And so I started doing it. And, you know, it's surprising the amount of people that are helped behind the scenes that you never even know about. I mean, people are always commenting that I get a lot of, you know, interaction on my page. I get a lot of people, you know, commenting and liking. For me, it's never about that, because a lot of times the people who are affected the most by the information that I put out or the stuff that I put out are the people who never like or say a thing about it. And it's not until I'm going through a rough time myself that, and maybe I feel like, you know, I'm feeling like, you know, maybe I'm not helping as much as I think I am. And then all of a sudden I see, you know, the outpour of people telling me how I've helped them. So, I mean, it is very much so about other people, and I think that we kind of lose ourselves in that, because it's so much about everybody else that we forget about the importance of taking care of number one, which is us.
You know what? You're like me, honey. We have no peace. We don't know what that is.
No, yeah, that's so true.
Everything we want about life and everybody else is we want peace for everybody.
Yes.
We will never have peace until everybody else has peace. That's who we are. We will never, ever be peaceful. I don't care what Zen, you know, there could be avatars and spirits and gods and all these things that will tell us that we should be this and that, we should be this and that. You know what? All I know is I will never be at peace on planet Earth until I see peace on planet Earth. And only then will I have peace and be ready to leave here. And I'm 51, and I'm ready to live here another 30 years. I can keep on going. I don't care how long it takes me to find peace, but I'm not leaving until peace is on Earth. That's all I know.
Right.
And I'm going to witness that. A tiny, tiny part of that. Tiny. I mean tiny. I am one tiny person, but I am so about peace on Earth, and it begins with me, and I get that. So I'm trying to find peace within, and that's not an easy thing when everybody around you is not happy.
That's true. Yeah, it's very much true. Now, I have a question for you, because I have somebody who I know who recently had contacted me that has psychic abilities. Actually, is a very, very strong psychic, and has been investigating for many years. And she actually grew up and it was very welcomed, you know, what she, about abilities. They were always explained to her. It was nothing that she was ever scared of. But whenever it came to the topic of UFOs or aliens, you know, it was something that not only did she not want to address, but she would refuse to talk about.
She'd freak out.
Yeah. And so I always felt that she had, you know, a lot more experience than either she wanted to let on or that she knew of. And recently, she contacted me. Like, she started going to our, we do this, you know, sky watches and stuff with our group. So, you know, we go out and we do those. And, you know, people are really taken back by all the stuff that we get. And she decided that she wanted to come in and check them out, too. And I started kind of seeing her interest change. But the other night, she had a nightmare where she was actually abducted, and that they had her on, you know, like on a table, and that these alien beings, and I can't remember the name of them, but they were kind of like an orangish, reddish color, and they had her on a table, and they actually, like, she was screaming, and her mouth was open, and they were putting this, tube into her mouth, and she was trying to kick her feet, but she couldn't, get out. And she ended up, when she woke up, she had her mouth wide open. She could not scream. She was, paralyzed, except she was kicking her feet. And then she started seeing little, small shadows. Your opinion, of being an investigator and also a contactee, do you feel that was...
I think she was not having an actual experience. I think she was reliving an experience.
Okay. Because she said that she recounts now, and it's interesting that, like, once you start to have, like, experiences like this, that other memories kind of dribble out a little bit, and then she starts remembering having, a missing time when she was younger. Now, with something like this, do you think that in a scenario like this that regression is a good thing to to check out and find out if that's something, or do you think that will come on its own? Those memories will come on their own.
Well, that's a touchy subject. It depends on the person. Some people with the wrong investigator that will help them with that could unleash some things that will bring it to the surface, if you will, and make you feel it when it used to be a suppressed, memory, or, how ET works. They put these subconscious memories and telepathic things, and they do all this stuff with these screen memories and whatever. So,
right.
What I want to know is, with her, is it a screen memory? Is it a past, like, hypnotic thing that she relived in the dream time that came up from subconscious memory from the past, or did this happen the night before, or whatever? So,
right.
Feeling with her that because she has had a little bit of denial in the past, and now this is coming up after that, I feel like, the more suggestion, the power of suggestion will somewhat bring real surface memories to, bring it to light, bring it to awareness. Even if you didn't want to look at it before, somebody might say something that will trigger it.
Right. Interesting. Yeah, interesting you said that, because that was actually something that I came up with, telling her as well, because she said, well, maybe all the fact that now that I'm investigating this stuff, maybe I'm just creating it in my own mind, and
that's a possibility, but you also could be remembering.
Right, and that's kind of how I felt, because from the day that I met her,
Tina, that's where we have to understand what John Mack was doing. You have to understand the power of the mind. What will the mind do? Does the mind remember things from future, past, and experiencing it as now? Are you experiencing something from the future or the past as now? When you're multidimensional, that's a question mark, okay? And all we have is past and present. We don't think about the fact that we might even be experiencing a future event now. We don't even think about that, but we are doing that. We really are. If you think you're experiencing past and not future, nope, not happening. Past, present, future, it's all relevant, and we never really know what we're feeling in the moment. We think it's present in the moment. It could be past. It could be future. It could be present.
Yeah, that's very much true.
It takes a very conscious person to know whether something is a event in the present, or if it's a past experience event that's coming to the surface, or if it's something in the future that and I do that, and that is crazy. That's the craziest part, is being able to see, predict, and know the future before it happens, and I do it all the time. And you know what? That proves to me that the future is somewhat fated and destined. It does. And that no matter how much we create with our intent, there is some things that are absolute future destiny No question. It's already proven that to me. I've seen it.
Right.
Seen it.
Well, I've noticed that there's, a big swing in the direction of contactees and even people who are experiencing paranormal activity are going through regression and hypnosis. Now, over the years, obviously, it has been done. I mean, there have been many people that have had well-known documented cases of being regressed.
I think it hurt. I think it hurt Stephen P.R.S. myself. I do.
I agree. Okay, because I
think
actually
so,
had
too.
him on my show.
Honey, when you unleash certain things in certain people and you can't follow up with them really help them through that process the way they need to be helped after you unleash it, it's not a good thing.
Right.
Because that's opening Pandora's box, and if they don't have the right equipment and the right support to deal with that at the time, then they're left sitting in it. It's like hanging in their energy, and then they have to live everyday life with that after having, not that, and then all of a sudden this is unleashed, and now you're trying to live a normal life, and you can't, all right?
You can't take it back, right?
If your life suppressing is now brought to the surface, and you can't just mentally deal with that. It's not a mental trick of the mind. You can't say, well, now that I have validation, now I can accept it. No, all the more. It's like, holy whatever, that's real.
Right.
Somebody just validated that. Oh, my God, I just saw myself witness my own self in a place where I have no control. And clearly, this is real, and I can deny it all I want, but I am, traumatized by that. And then they don't deal with it after that. They don't deal with the trauma.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
And not because it affects them, but it affects every single person in their life. And I am absolutely a witness of post-traumatic stress in other abductees.
Well, I'll tell you, I talked to, I had Steve on my show, and I actually did a reading on him live on our show. And I had, said I had thought that he had been abducted himself. I talked about his daughter, having psychic abilities, different things like that. He was able to validate everything. But I did warn him, not only on the air but off the air, about doing the regular type regression, because over the years they have been able to find different types of regression to do. And actually somebody who I had met and who was working on closely with our team is a hypnotherapist, and she was doing a new type of regression, which was like I
remember that, Christina. It's a third-person type of...
Yes.
Third-party intervention. Yes, I know.
Yes. And I told him I thought that it was, it was important for him, to gain the answers, but I was very fearful of him doing regular regression because of what I saw was going to come forward. And I will tell you, he sent me and I think two other people the actual, videos of after he did his regression. And I only watched a very short amount of it.
I lost it after me and Audrey Starborn witnessed that regression for the first time together right here in my living room, and Stephen was in the other room. He was here. He was living here with me at the time. And it took Christina, it took me 2 months before I could even watch it because I already knew before I watched it what it was going to feel. I already knew it.
Yeah, well, I watched it, and not only did I watch it, but I had it back on the show afterwards. Go ahead. That
regression, before it ever hit YouTube, I'm the one that told him, put it up there. Put it. People need to know this is real, all right? Before that, he ever put it up on YouTube, which he did right here in my living room. He decided to finally put it out there. I wouldn't watch it. It took me 2 months to watch that, and I finally watched it with Audrey Starborn for the first time. And her and I, in the same moment of that regression tape, we lost it. At the same time, we couldn't even believe it. We were looking at each other. We couldn't even hold it together. We were losing it, watching him, because that is so real. And I know him. I know him personally. I know him intimately. I know him very well. He's a lot of things. And no matter what anybody thinks of him, I see him on a huge big level. It's, you know what? I've been with a lot of people in my life. I've been with a lot of men in my life. You know, I've had you and me. We've had a lot of whatever in our life, but Stephen P. touched my life deeply for so many reasons. He just did. And when I heard that tape, I was in love with him. I couldn't believe that side of him. I really lost it when I saw that side of him. I knew after watching that this man is highly empathic, highly psychic, highly telepathic, highly sensitive. And you know what? He does everything in his power to show the world that he is some kind of macho, studly, tough dude, whatever. And I know that regression tape, and that really backs up for me what I really know about him on every other level. He is that sensitive. He is that kind-hearted, and it only comes out sometimes when you let go and you won't let the world really see the truth. You know what I'm saying? It all comes out when you let go and you can't control it. So that is real. Let me tell you, that is so real as it's going to get, because his everyday personality tries very hard to hide what showed up on that tape. I'm just saying.
Yes, yeah, and I got that too. And you could just see the pain and the anger and the anxiety, just everything that was pumping through him. I couldn't watch it, and then even when I brought him back on, you know, and we were talking about that, and you know, again, he was like, "Oh yeah, I forgot about that," you know, and you know, I ever since that, and I you know, this will be something that Steve and I will probably, you know, share forever. You know, was the fact that, you know, after I saw that, I really started the whole bandwagon of really pushing, if people want to get regression, that they need to get the third party done.
I saw that. I loved him in a different way, even though I loved him as a man. I loved him as a different, like all the way around. I loved him differently when I saw that.
Yeah.
I'm sure. So, you know, in my book, in my eyes, you know, no matter what he does as a human, I will always love him, and he will always have a special place in my heart.
Oh, well, that's amazing. I'm glad to hear that.
I love him dearly. Nobody will ever know how much I love that man.
Oh, well, that's awesome.
It's something nobody will ever understand, because, you know, no matter what anybody sees on the surface, I saw a part of him that was very,
get a chance.
very different part of him that I got to see.
Yes, and I mean, you can tell just because of the energy that he emits. I mean, you can tell that there's just so much that is hidden from, you know, from a lot of people through him. You know, that a lot of sadness.
Yeah, but he couldn't hide from me. That's why we're not together right now. He couldn't hide from me, and he couldn't handle that. So.
Right. Well, yeah. I mean, that is hard, especially when you're, you know, dating somebody else who's also highly empathic and highly psychically gifted. I mean, yes, it does make that kind of hard, because if one person is trying to hide, or you know, not even hide, but just kind of forget one side, but they can't, you know, it makes it very, very hard on the person that they're with, because they pick all that up. So it very much so. Now, you know, going through everything that you've gone through.
Some people don't really understand unconditional love. They don't understand how you can love them, even though they can display any kind of behavior as a human they want to, but other people can look at them and see the human, and then more than that, you know, like so much more than the human. So that makes it tougher for some of us, but you know, I can't convince anybody of anything, and I can't control them, and I can't make them think anything, whatever, you know, even if it's to their betterment, you know, they have to have experience.
Everybody has their own journey, their own experience that they have to go through.
You know, they do. And all I know is, you know, better to have loved and lost than have loved at all. That's what
Absolutely. Absolutely. Especially if you got something, you know, if you got to experiencing something, you know, positive, or something you never have experienced since then, you know, it's something that you'll always hold on to. But one of my questions, I think, for you, and then I also want to give a few minutes for Renee to ask any questions he has, too, because he's been very busy in chat with us tonight. But one of the things is, by doing this all these years, okay, not only being a contactee, but also investigating this field, you know, where do you see this field going, within the next, say, 5 years?
We don't have 5 years. We got like a year and a half. That's all I see. That's it. It's coming out. It's all coming out. All of it. Everything. And you know what? You know what led me to realizing so much more about untruth is the UFO thing. The minute I realized truly that the government was covering that up, I realized the government was covering up a whole lot of other
things. Right. Right. Yeah.
It just kind of leads you off into this goose chase, this wild goose chase of what else are they hiding,
Yeah.
And they hide what they feel like they need to, and they hide behind national security. They can use that all they want as an excuse because they think that we're stupid and, that we'll freak out as a collective, that we'll freak out, and they don't give us the benefit of the doubt that they can get on the news, and without their drama, if they could just get on the news and tell us, we have a news report, and, we're just going to, tell the world now. It's something we should have told you guys all a long time ago. Don't freak out, because there's nothing to fear. It's just something that we didn't want to tell you yet because we didn't understand it, but we do, so here you go.
Right.
We're alone. We're not. We're not alone, And anybody that ever wondered, there's like too much out there going on that we don't really understand, and we still can't tell you a lot because we're still trying to understand it too. But we're at least willing to admit that there are other things going on that we don't really, If they could do that much at least and leave the door open for everybody else to at least accept it to a point where they can understand it from their own level, whatever that might be for them. At least if they admit it, then they can give people the chance to try to understand it or accept it, but they won't do that. So
right.
I want to say is that, right now I'm all about disclosure. I'm all about Experiencers Speak 3 coming up September 5th, 6th, and 7th. And you know what? We have a big press release going on that I am putting out there today. I put it out there. Where I work for the last 10 years, I'm holding a press conference on September 2nd, 3 days before the big event, because it's only down the street from the big event in Portland. And this is my third year with them, Experiencers Speak, and I'm not even speaking this year for the first time. But you know what? I'm all about making this the best year ever. Everybody else. We have some speakers this year that I'm very excited to hear from myself that I haven't heard from after all these years in the field, 30 years.
Yeah, I think that's kind of awesome right there.
I'm going to hear from Linda Cortile. I'm going to hear from Steve Bassett. I'm going to hear from some people that I really like, Ray Hernandez. I'm going to hear from some UFO people I haven't heard from yet.
Right.
Firsthand. I want to hear from them,
Right.
So
it's great to hear everybody's stories, but we do tend to see in the whole conference, circuit that you hear the same people over and over and over, and that's all you hear from. And there are so many stories.
I don't want to speak. I want to hear somebody else speak. I'll just help run the show.
Yeah, because that's the way I speak to so many of them. And
it's already out there, so I want to hear from other people right now. So.
Right, yeah. I completely understand that. So, Renee, do you have any questions? And then we want to let her give out some of her contact information, stuff like that.
Yeah, I was going to say that, I totally agreed about, how disclosure is going to come about. And, we are ready for it. We're ready to hear about, that we're not alone. When the government, mentioned, oh, by the way, Area 51 is real, because it's been a secret for so long, and the rest of us go, yeah, we know. We just kind of move right along. So when we get this disclosure coming out that we all see that we're not alone, we see these beings flying around in their ships and so forth, that would be kind of integrated into our conscious knowing, well, okay, they're there. You build that, what do you call it, that curiosity about, you want to learn about them. And so that's one of the reasons why we're even here, is to learn about different lives, about the planet, about each other, about life out there as well. So I just
we are. We're here.
Out.
Here to do is teach and learn.
Yeah.
Both.
And so, okay, so obviously you have your event coming up, and why don't you, for the listeners, give all the information again for that, and then how they can find or contact you if they're interested in having you either on their show or talking to you about your story, something like that.
Okay. Well, first of all, September 2nd at Leapin' Lizards in Portland, Maine, we're having a press conference with the local press. We're having a discussion panel of me and Audrey and Debbie, Jim Murray, Stanton Friedman, and Kathleen Martin. We're all speaking on September 2nd.
Okay.
After that, 3 days later, we are all doing Experience or Speak Free. Audrey and Debbie and me are running it, and Stanton and Kathleen are speaking again. They did last year, but they are again this year. There's not too many other people that are speaking again this year that were last year. It's all new people, except for the two of them.
Wow.
They just wrote a book. They just co-wrote a book recently, and they are going to be in Lizards on September 2nd, not only doing a book signing, but a discussion to, precede the big event on the weekend of the 5th, 6th, and 7th. Now, Monday, this is the big event. Monday night, which is, it's, I think it's the 8th. Monday night is the 8th, I believe. We are up to Otis Field, Maine, where Audrey and Debbie's mother's lake house is. And Audrey and Travis had a triangular-shaped ship appear last year, right after Experience or Speak 2. So we're picking that as a new hotspot for the year.
Oh, wow.
We're having a CE5. I don't think you saw my press release yet. I'm not sure. I sent it out today, Christina. I'm not sure, but
yeah, I don't think I saw it.
At the bottom of the press release, we're talking about the Skywatch CE5. I am part of that because I used to do that years ago. Back in the early 90s, I used to run a lot of Stephen Greer's CE5 protocols right here in Maine with some good results, okay? So I believe in his protocol, and I've since learned the remote viewing stuff of Richard Morehouse, who worked for the CIA. Those are his CIA protocols through remote viewing. So I use the remote viewing, and I use the original CE5 protocols to vector in a craft and interact with them intentionally. So even though we have a large group of contactees, abductees, researchers, experiencers in the field, it's by invitation only. We have a CE5 going on September 8th in Otis Field, Maine. I am part of the bigger part of that because only a few people there. There's probably a handful of us out of all of us that know how to run a real CE5. So
awesome.
I'm one of them.
Well, I'd love to invite you.
After that, when I learned about what Stephen Greer was doing back in the early 90s, I was all over that more than anything else in the UFO field. Because of the disclosure, I'm all about Nikola Tesla and all the suppressed technology that will heal and cure the Earth's problems. So he's all about the suppressed technology and all the, cold fusion, fuelless generators, all kinds of free energy and all that. I'm into that in a big way. So I really was all about everything Stephen had to say way back when. So disclosure is not just about ET. It's about disclosing all of the suppressed technology that ET gave us a long time ago that they're not only using, and they're using it against us. I hate to say it, but they are.
Right, right. Well,
and that's enough radio show if you want to talk about that ever. A lot of people don't want to go out there and talk about what the government's doing and the ET technology, scalar weapons, and microwave technology, all the stuff they're doing. To some of us, they're actually targeting a lot of ET-related people with this technology.
Right, right. you'll definitely have to listen to a few of my shows because I absolutely do know about all this. I do talk about this. I'm not afraid to talk about any of this. Many people, they want to
subject, but people should know that the government is not really their best friend.
Absolutely. And well, they need to learn to question things. We need to learn to go forward, not being robots and just accepting whatever we're told to be truth is that it's the truth. Because again, this is why so many of us have battled, our entire life.
Well, how old were you when you figured that out, though? Too many of us have that burden of truth at a very young age where we knew a long time ago that everything that's telling us is so not true. Right.
And that's the whole thing, but it's such a different reality from everybody else. And it seems like, back then, like you'd be fighting all of society. But it's been amazing, again, with technology and the computers and the web and all of that, because the information was able to you were able to connect with so many more people that were just like you, that were shared a very similar story. And, people could connect.
I don't know how much time we have left, but I don't feel like there's a lot of time. But you know what? We can end this show with something very profound. We don't really need them to tell us anything because we have a computer now. And that computer, you type in the right keywords, you can find out anything about ET or the government and everything they know about the government and ET. So it ain't no big secret. So get over it.
Right. Yeah, it is like hiding in plain sight, because people, say, oh, well, where is all this, all this evidence and everything? And, just go do some research, But, again, we're in these fields of, hundreds of thousands of so-called researchers and investigators, but it seems like nobody does any research anymore, It's so much easier to just believe whatever people say. So, my biggest thing about, running my shows.
I don't think there's research when you have abductees. That's why experiencers speak so important to me.
Go. Yes, absolutely.
Right.
Now the experiencers are coming out and saying it's real, and we don't really care if you're going to say it is or it isn't.
Right. And I love that. Yeah, I absolutely love that because I think
we're not waiting for the government to give disclosure. That's why I say within a year or so we're coming out, and that's it. And you know what? I'm so sorry. But the weekend of September 5th, 6th, and 7th, it's beyond Portland, Maine, because we're going to do whatever we have to do to make the whole world know that we are here and we're not going away and we're not shutting up and we're not going to just go away. That's it. We're here to stay.
Well, I'm glad to hear that. I definitely, forward me your press release or whatever information you'd like me to share. I'd be happy, on all of our pages. Renee and I will, share this information in our group.
Can't be there, Christina. I want people to know we're doing it, because we are.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, we still got, a few weeks to get this information out and, make the biggest impact around the world that we can. I mean, we've got a worldwide audience here at this show. So, between that and social media, we can help get the information out and let's really try to bring awareness because that is where, we are most productive is when we can all pull together of, the like-minded people and share this information as much as we possibly can. So, but we do invite you to come back if you'd like to come back on the show after you.
I'd like to come back on your other psychic radio show so I can talk about all this.
Absolutely. I'd love to have you back, but we'd love to have you back on.
You know what? More than anything that we do together, me and you, bless your soul for finding that little girl. Oh, I bless your soul. What a beautiful day that must have been for you, no matter how hard it was. I want to find Ayla Reynolds. I'm still trying to find her, and I'm working. That's one of the cold cases here in Maine.
Well, I've been help you with that as well.
For 3 years, and I'm going to find her. Dead or alive, I'll find her somehow.
Right. Well, we'd love to pull together and help you with that as well. So it looks like we've got about 2 minutes left. So we just want to thank everybody that's listened tonight. We've had people from all over the world listening.
We didn't give Renee a lot of chance to talk, but I think me and you needed to talk pretty much.
Hey, welcome to Renee. Renee, he hangs around and just when it's important pops in. So, but he's an important part of what we do, and we love him a lot. So, all right, everybody, we want to again say thank you for coming to the show tonight. Thanks to our guest. We're going to have her back on. Absolutely, we'll have her on Paranormal Connections too. Make sure to check us out next week when we'll have Leah Watterson, and she's going to be a first-hand experiencer, contactee, and abductee, and she is going to be coming out with her story exclusively on Aliens, UFOs, and Beyond. So make sure to check us out. All right, we'll see everybody next week. Make sure to take care and check out our Facebook pages. Give us a like, and if you have a guest or a topic or have an experience yourself that you'd like to share on our show, we would love to have you on. So please just contact us on Facebook at Aliens, UFOs, and Beyond, or contact me at Paranormal Investigator 916@gmail.com. Good night, everybody. Good night, Renee, and thank you so much, Pamela, for being on the show tonight.
Good night, sweetheart. Thanks, honey.
You're very welcome. Bye-bye, everyone.
Bye.